ولا تعجل بالقرآن من قبل أن يقضى إليك وحيه وقل رب زدني علما.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. الحمد لله رب العالمين، وأصلي وأسلم على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين نبينا الكريم محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين. أما بعد، فإن أصدق الحديث كتاب الله، وخير الهدي هدي محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم، وشر الأمور محدثاتها، وكل محدثة بدعة، وكل بدعة ضلالة، وكل ضلالة في النار. أعاذني الله وإياكم من النار. ثم أيها الإخوة الكرام, we begin by praising Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Most High, as how He Jalla wa Ala deserves it. And then we send our salat and our salam upon the best of mankind, our Nabi, our Prophet Muhammad, and upon his families and his companions and those that are upon their way. And after that, we continue on with our weekly sittings with regards to the book 𝔸𝕃-𝔸𝔸𝔸𝕀𝔻 min 𝔸𝔼𝔸𝔸𝔸𝔸𝔸𝔸𝔸𝔸𝔸𝔸𝔸𝔸𝔸𝔸𝔸𝔸𝔸𝔸𝔸𝔸𝔸𝔸𝔸𝔸𝔸𝔸𝔸𝔸𝔸𝔸𝔸𝔸𝔸𝔸𝔸𝔸𝔸𝔸𝔸𝔸𝔸𝔸𝔸𝔸𝔸𝔸𝔸𝔸𝔸𝔸𝔸𝔸𝔸𝔸𝔸𝔸𝔸𝔸𝔸𝔸𝔸𝔸𝔸𝔸𝔸𝔸𝔸𝔸𝔸𝔸𝔸𝔸𝔸𝔸𝔸𝔸𝔸𝔸𝔸𝔸𝔸𝔸𝔸𝔸𝔸𝔸𝔸𝔸𝔸𝔸𝔸𝔸𝔸 from the statements of the most noble of the messengers, sallallahu alayhi wasallam, a book collected and compiled by Al-Hafidh An-Nawawi Yahya ibn Sharaf rahimahullah ta'ala. And as how it is known, we are currently explaining and commenting on the hadith of Abu Hurairah radiyallahu anhu, where the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam, he said, إِيَّاكُمْ وَالظَّنِّ فَإِنَّ الظَّنَّ أَكْذَبُ الْحَدِيثِ. Avoid suspicions, be wary of suspicions, for indeed suspicions are the worst of false tales. Till the end of the hadith. And in our last sitting specifically, then we have talked about the prohibitions of making a tadabur, the prohibition of giving one's back to the others. And as how we had read from the words of our beloved 𝔸𝔸𝔸𝔸𝔸𝔸 rahimahullah ta'ala rahmatan wasi'ah, he mentioned that there are two types of at-tadabur, tangible and non-tangible at-tadabur. Tangible at-tadabur means to literally give the other one's back. From it is to turn away when others are talking. From it also is to cut off others' speech when they are talking. From it also is to betray the others when they are in dire needs, to betray them and to leave them off without helping them. These are all some examples of the tangible type of at-tadabur, giving others one's back. As for the non-tangible at-tadabur, then from it is to differ in opinions. To differ in opinions. Everyone having their own opinion. And we had talked about that to have an opinion, a person needs to have some criteria and such. If not, then he is not a person of an opinion. He is not a person of an opinion. He does not have the rights to have opinions in the matters of the religion of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Only certain people like the ulama, the talabatul ilmi, the students of knowledge, the Islamic scholars, only such people have the right to have opinions on religious matters and religious affairs. It does not return back to anyone to have their own individual set of opinions and thinking and such. And we had mentioned about that in Islam there are things where differing of opinions is not allowed at all. And they are the matters which relates to the aqidah, the Islamic creed. If it relates to the Islamic creed, the aqidah of a Muslim, then it is not permissible for differing of opinions. In this matter, in this section of the religion of Allah, which is the Islamic creed, then the opinion will remain as one. And differing is not allowed. Like in regards to the Tawheed of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in all the three categories, the Tawheed of Rububiyyah, no one can differ that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the creator of all things. No one can differ that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one that gives sustenance. No one can differ that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one that gives life and takes away life. And no one can differ that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one true being that deserves to be worshipped in truth. And none can be made partners to him. No one can differ in these affairs. And no one can differ in the affairs of Allah's names and attributes. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He possesses beautiful names and He has perfect attributes. No one can differ in this section of the religion of Allah. The Arkanul Islam al-Khamsa, Arkanul Iman al-Sitta. No one can differ in this section of the religion of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And there are other parts of the religion of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala where we say differing of opinions can be accepted. Like in matters of al-fiqh, in fiqh issues. How do one, for example, go down to sujood? Is it with the two hands or with the two knees? Na'am. When to raise the hands in takbir, when to not raise the hand in takbir in the salat. What breaks the siyam and what does not break the siyam. All of this, if differences of opinions were to happen, then it is accepted. And when we say differences of opinions is accepted, it does not mean that it is up to someone to choose freely what he wants. It does not mean that since there is an opinion of a scholar and it is of a less of effort, or it is something that the self desires, only then a person chooses this opinion as and how he wants. What his desires wants, what his desires earn for, he chooses that opinion. Just merely like that. It does not mean in that manner. Rather, we say that opinions are accepted, but it is still upon a person to search for the most correct opinion. For the most correct opinion where the Quran and the Sunnah points towards them and the understanding of the companions, understanding of the Sahaba are pointing towards them. It is still up to a person to do that. And not just say, there is a scholar who says this, so do not say that I am wrong. Barakallahu fikum. It's not in that manner. Rather, we say it is still up to a person to search and to put in effort to find what is the most correct opinion, what is the most strongest of opinions that the Quran and the Sunnah points to. And if a person does that if a person puts in all of his effort to find an opinion or to hold on to an opinion where the ulama says that it has an evidence and such, and differing occurs after that, then it is not permissible for anyone to say that the other party is misguided. The one that is holding an opinion, after searching for it, after putting in effort for it, and for him, if he has that criteria, he says that this is the most strongest of opinion for me, since this is where I have reached in my research. It's not up to a person to say that he is misguided. And again, it circles around the circumference of fiqh issues and such, not in matters of aqidah or whatsoever. Wadah? طيب. And then also we had mentioned about the athar of Ibn Mas'ud radiallahu anhu, where Ibn Mas'ud radiallahu anhu, he said, Al-khilafu shar, to differ amongst one another is evil. Differing amongst ourselves, in opinions and such, is evil. It's evil because it leads to splitting, it leads to argumentations, it leads to disunity and such. And therefore, that is why Ibn Mas'ud radiallahu anhu, even though he knows that the more stronger opinion is to pray 2 rak'ah, 2 units of prayer in Mina during Hajj. When Uthman, the 3rd Khalifa of Islam, prayed in Mina, Uthman prayed 4 rak'ah as an imam. He prayed 4 rak'ah when he was the imam of the Muslimin. And Ibn Mas'ud radiallahu anhu, what did he do? Even though he holds an opinion that to pray more than 2 rak'ah is wrong during safar, during traveling. This is his opinion, Ibn Mas'ud radiallahu anhu. Even so, he prayed the prayers fully with 4 units of prayer, 4 rak'ahs, because he do not want to make what? Differing. And also, take note that this event happened during Hajj, where people of different land come. And if they were to see that some were to pray 2 rak'ahs, some were to pray 4 rak'ahs, and there are groups and such, they will see differing in Islam. They will see that the companions of the Prophet differs amongst themselves. And so we return back to our places having different opinions as well. And Ibn Mas'ud radiallahu anhu, being a knowledgeable person that he is, he refrained himself from differing with Uthman radiallahu anhu. And when being asked, he answered and he said an important qa'idah, an important principle, al-khilafu shar, that to differ is evil. Not like some who says that al-khilafu what? Rahmah. The khilaf is blessing. Totally the opposite of what Ibn Mas'ud radiallahu anhu said to the Muslimin. That khilaf is evil. But nowadays there are people who say that to differ is rahmah, is blessing, it's a blessing. It's mercy. To differ is a mercy from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When Ibn Mas'ud, one of the most knowledgeable person from the companions of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, Al-khilafu shar, to differ is evil. So where is the rahmah? Where is the mercy in that? For everyone to have their own individual opinions and everyone does whatever he wants. There's no mercy in that whatsoever. طيب. And then we had said that the opposite trait that we are commanded with is to try to our very best to be upon one single opinion, so as not to differ amongst ourselves, as how Ibn Mas'ud radiallahu anhu had done and had shown a proper good example for us all. And also, if we are forbade to turn our backs to others, then what we can understand from this also is that we are commanded to face others as a whole, to face others and to give our attention to others with our whole self. As how it appeared in the hadith, where the companion Ali ibn Abi Talib radiallahu anhu, when he described Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam with some of the Prophet's characteristics, he said, وَإِذَا إِلْتَفَتَا إِلْتَفَتَا جَمِيعًا. And if the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam would face a person, he would face that person with his whole body. With his whole body. Meaning giving that person his whole body, facing that person with his whole body, not just giving a part of him, like moving his head to face that person and such. La. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when he used to talk to a person, he would talk to that person and give that person his whole attention and his whole self. He would face that person with his whole body. And this, barakallahu fikum, will give acceptance to a person. He feels that he is accepted. He feels honored that someone is giving him their full attention to him. And this can be a reason for someone to accept some nasiha, for example, some advices, some matters of the religion of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is better for him, and is more of a higher probability that he can accept what is being said to him when he sees that the other is really giving him their attention and such. Wadah? The next trait that we are forbid in this hadith with its different narrations is to cut off ties with one another. To cut off ties or to sever ties with one another. This is trait number what? 9. This is trait number 9. The next trait, that is trait number 9. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam forbid us all from cutting off ties with each other, from severing of ties with each other. And this is from his saying sallallahu alaihi wasallam, وَلَا تَقَاطَعُوا وَلَا تَقَاطَعُوا, and do not cut off ties with each other. Al-Sheikh Abdul Rahman Al-Mubarakfuri rahimahullah ta'ala, he said in his book tuhfatul al-Ahwadi, which is the explanation of Sunan at-Tirmidhi. Tuhfatul Ahwadi is the book that is the explanation of Sunan at-Tirmidhi or Jami' at-Tirmidhi. He said, وَلَا تَقَطَعُوا, and do not sever ties with one another. لَا يُقَاطِعُ بَعْضُكُمْ بَعْضًا, meaning do not cut off one another. Do not cut off one another. وَالتَّقَاطُعُ ضِدُّ التَّوَاصُلِ. وَالتَّقَاطُعُ ضِدُّ التَّوَاصُلِ, and cutting off ties is the opposite of being connected. And to cut off ties, cutting off ties is the opposite of being connected. Again, it means do not cut off one another. And cutting off ties is the opposite of being connected. It is the opposite of being connected. It is the opposite of being together. End of his words, rahimahullah ta'ala. Cutting off ties or severing of ties is impermissible in Islam. And this is another form of disunity in the community, and it is not what real Islamic brotherhood and real Islamic sisterhood calls to. And it is as well as a characteristic of a non-Muslim. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says in the Quran in Surah Al-Baqarah about the non-believers, الَّذِينَ يَنْقُضُونَ عَهْدَ اللَّهِ مِنْ بَعْدِ مِيثَاقِهِ وَيَقْطَعُونَ مَا أَمَرَ اللَّهُ بِهِ أَن يُوصَلَ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has said about the non-believers, they are those who break Allah's covenant after ratifying it, and they are those who sever what Allah has ordered to be joined. And they are those who cut off, who sever what Allah has ordered to be joined. Up till the end of the verse. Who falls under this prohibition? Who falls under this prohibition? There is the prohibition of what? Cutting off ties. Who are we forbid? Who are we forbid from cutting off ties with? Understand the question? First and foremost, those that fall under this are those that are known as the Silatul Rahim. Silatul Rahim. Those that are known as the Silatul Rahim. In Malay also we say what? Silatul Rahmi. Sesiapa yang ada Silatul Rahmi dengan kita. Naam. They are the first and foremost that falls under this prohibition, that we are not supposed to cut off ties with. Silatul Rahimi means the ties of kinship. The ties of kinship. And another question comes after this. Who are the kin that are included in this? Who are the kin? Who are they? They are known as our Silatul Rahim. This is the next question. Shaykh al-Islam of this era, that is Shaykh Abdul Aziz ibn Abdullah ibn Baz rahimahullah ta'ala rahmatan wasi'ah, he said when asked about who are the kin, he said, Al-Arham, the kin, humul aqaribu min jihatil wa min jihatil ab. They are the relatives from the maternal side as well as the paternal side. فالآباء والأمهات والأجداد والجدات أرحام. Therefore, one's fathers, one's mothers, one's grandfathers, and one's grandmothers are all kin. They are all kin. والأولاد وأولادهم من ذكور وإناث وأولاد البنات كلهم أرحام. One's children and their children, both males and females, and the children of the daughters are all kin. Are all kin. وهكذا الإخوة والأخوات وأولادهم أرحام. As well as one's brothers and one's sisters and their children, they are all kin. وهكذا الأعمام والعمات والأخوال والخالات وأولادهم أرحام. And also one's paternal uncles and one's paternal aunties and one's maternal uncles and one's maternal aunties and their children as well, they are all kin also. داخلون كلهم في قوله جل وعلا وأولو الأرحام بعضهم أولى ببعض. All of them, meaning all of them that were mentioned, are included in the saying of the most magnificent and the most high in Surah Al-Anfal, وَأُولُو الْأَرْحَامِ بَعْضُهُمْ أَوْلَى بِبَعْضٍ. But those kin, some of them are more entitled than others. Meaning they are all included in the saying of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, وَأُولُو الْأَرْحَامِ. They are our silatu ar-rahim. And of Sheikh Ibn Baz words. Naam. So all of these people, they are the first and foremost where we are forbade from cutting off our ties with them. Mother, father, grandfather, and what? Grandmother and their children, our brothers, our sisters, and their children, our own children, and our own grandchildren. And then what? The uncles from both sides of the parents, the aunties from both sides of the parents, and their children. All of them are known as the ulul arham, that are the silatul arham or silatul rahim. All of them, they are not permissible for us to cut off our ties with them. They are all not permissible for us to cut off our ties with them without a valid, accepted, legislated reason. Also, included in this prohibition of cutting off ties after the ties of kinship will be the Muslims in general. After the ties of kinship, the ties that we are forbade from cutting off with them will be the Muslims in general. It is not permissible to cut off ties with any Muslim based on falsehood. If it is based on falsehood or worldly affairs, it is not permissible to cut off ties with another Muslim. And we will go through on this part more when we talk about al-hajar or boycotting, insha'Allah ta'ala, which is the next trade that we will talk about tonight, insha'Allah. As for now, it is a must to know that it is impermissible to cut off ties with any Muslim in general based on falsehood or based on false desires. Based on falsehood or false desires. If we are prohibited from cutting off ties between us, the Muslims, and that cutting off ties is one of the bad and evil results of a non-healthy community, what is the opposite trait that we are commanded with that will nurture a healthy, harmonious community? It is to connect the relationship between us all and to enjoin in this relation that bonds us all together for the sake of Allah. Also to come onto all means possible to keep our ties enjoined and connected, such as being sincere to Allah in fulfilling the rights of this great worship of keeping of ties with each other. Also to speak with each other and to deal with each other through ways that are comforting and nice, and that will draw our hearts towards one another. Naam. So this is what we are commanded with in opposition of cutting off ties. If we are forbade from cutting off ties, it means that we are commanded to enjoin the ties, to enjoin and to keep connected of the ties. Wadah? This is trait number what? Number 9. وَلَا تَقَاطَعُوا, and do not cut off with one another. The next street, that is street number 10, according to what the brother had said. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam forbade us in this hadith from its different narrations from making al-hajar of one another. Al-hajar of one another, that is to boycott one another. Al-hajar and at-taqatu' has some similarities and differences between them. They have some similarities and differences between them. Al-hajar means to boycott. What is to boycott? To cut off relations, am I right? So it has some similarities and it has differences as well with the previous trait. And that is why some of the ulama, they say that since they have some differences and there are some similarities between them, then the taqatu' specifically means for the silatul arham. Silatul arham. As for al-hajar, from the saying of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, wala tahajaru, then it is what? General for everyone. This is some of the statement of some of the ulama. Rahimahumullah man mata minhum wa hafidhallah man la yazalu hayyan. To boycott means to cut off all ties with another person. To boycott all ties. To boycott means to cut off all ties with another person. To not speak with him. To not give him the salam. Or to not reply his salam. To not mix with him. To avoid him, etc. All of these are from al-hajar. All of these are from al-hajar. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran in Surah Al-Muzammil, وَاصْبِرْ عَلَى مَا يَقُولُونَ وَاهْجُرْهُمْ هَجْرًا جَمِيلًا. And be patient, O Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, with what they say, and keep away from them in a good manner. Keep away from them in a good manner. Make hajar of them in a good manner. So this is what hajar means linguistically. To cut off ties. To not speak with the person. To not give him salam. To not answer his salam. To not mix around with him. To avoid him. All of this is from al-hajar. Na'am. And again, as mentioned, there are similarities between boycotting and the previous prohibition, that is to cut off ties, in the sense that both relates to cutting and severing of relations between the Muslims. A question: is al-hajar prohibited all of the times? Is al-hajar prohibited all of the times? It is collected in both Sahih al-Bukhari and Sahih Muslim, and this is the narration found in Sahih al-Imam Muslim, to the great companion, that is Anas ibn Malik radiallahu anhu. The Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he said, لا تباغضوا ولا تحاسدوا ولا تدابروا وكونوا عباد الله إخوانا ولا يحل لمسلم أن يهجر أخاه فوق ثلاث. Do not nurse hatred and do not be envious of one another, nor turn your backs on each other. Rather become as fellow brothers and servants of Allah. It is not lawful for a Muslim that he boycotts his brother beyond 3 days. It is not lawful for a Muslim that he boycotts his brother. He makes hajar of his Muslim brother beyond 3 days. And also in Sahih al-Imam Muslim, rahimahullah, to the authority of the great companion Abdullah ibn Umar, radiallahu anhuma, that Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he said, لا يحل لمؤمن or لا يحل للمؤمن أن يهجر أخاه فوق 3 أيام. It is not permissible for a Muslim to boycott his brother beyond 3 days. It is not permissible for a mu'min, afwan. It is not permissible for a mu'min, for a believer, to boycott his brother beyond 3 days. All of this hadith, all of these different narrations point to the impermissibility of boycotting another Muslim for how many days? More than 3 days. It is not permissible to cut off ties or to stay away from a Muslim brother for more than 3 days. And what can be understood here is that if it is lesser than 3 days, if it is lesser than 3 days, to boycott or to avoid another Muslim, it is what? Permissible. It is permissible to avoid another Muslim for what? 3 days or less. 3 days or less. Because Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said that the one that is not lawful is what is beyond 3 days. What is what? More than 3 days. And what we can understand here is that what is lesser than 3 days, is it permissible or not? It is permissible. It is permissible. The prohibition here starts only after the 3 days. The prohibition only starts after 3 days. But here's the important point. Here's the important point. Although it is permissible to go up to 3 days to avoid another Muslim, we are not encouraging people to do so. We are not what? Encouraging people to do so. Rather, what we encourage the people to do, or rather what we encourage those who falls into misunderstandings with each other, is to talk it out. Is to talk it out and to straighten things out as fast as possible, and to handle the matter like mature adults. When misunderstanding happens between 2 or more people, although we say that it is permissible to avoid one another to a maximum of how many days? 3 days. We are not encouraging people to do so. We are not encouraging people to do so. Rather, we encourage them to rectify the matter between themselves straight away when they fall into misunderstandings and such. To talk it out. What is the problem? Where did we fall wrong? Where did we go wrong here? Is it your mistake or my mistake? And if someone makes mistake, be an adult and accept that it is a mistake. And then move on for the greater good. And for those who have been wrong, be an adult and accept the apology. Be an adult and accept the apology. Be mature to understand that togetherness is more important than these petty affairs. Wadah? Why 3 days? Why is the prohibition why do the prohibition starts only after 3 days? Why is it 3 days? Some of the ulama mentions that this is the average time that a person needs to cool down. This is the average time that a person needs to cool down and to sort out his affairs. This is the average time that he can what? Start to think properly again. His anger begins to subside. Day 1, maybe there's still anger in him. Day 2, maybe there's still anger. Day 3, most of the time, a person already continues on with his life and he forgets already what happens, or he tries to forget. This is the average time that a person needs to cool down and to sort out his affairs. Naam. Once Abu Bakr and Umar radiallahu anhu disagreed with each other, as it appeared in the Sahih. They had a misunderstanding with each other. What did they both do? What? They handed it out with maturity. Abu Bakr went to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and said that he had wronged Umar. He had wronged Umar. Abu Bakr, the best of mankind after the prophets, came to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and what? Stated that he is the one that is wrong in this matter. And then Umar, when he walked away while he was angry, and when he reached his home, he started to think properly, and then he began to search for Abu Bakr. And he couldn't find Abu Bakr at his house, and straight away Umar knew that Abu Bakr went to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So Umar went to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam also and found Abu Bakr with Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And when Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam saw Umar, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam became angry. He became angry. And Abu Bakr, he said, what? La ya Rasulullah, I am the one who made the mistake. The mistake was from me. Look at his maturity. Look at his maturity, radiallahu anhu. The mistake is from me, not Umar. By what the Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said to Umar, do not talk bad about my companion Abu Bakr. He is the one that believed me when all of you said that I lied. He believed me, Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiallahu anhu, when all of you had said that I lied. So do not, what? Make my companion angry. Radiallahu anhu ajma'in. Ala kulli, what we want from this story is that, look at how they both handled the affairs, being mature adults. When they fall into misunderstanding, one, he races to say that he is the one that made mistake. He is the one that is wrong. Even in front of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, even when he knows that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam will protect his dignity, but he said, it is me that made the mistake, ya Rasulullah, not Umar. I am the one that is in the wrong. And the hadith goes on to its end. Look at the maturity between these two great leaders of Islam, Abu Bakr and Umar radiallahu anhu. How do one end the boycott? If one were to take 3 days to cool down, to start thinking properly, and he avoided his brothers, for 3 days, how do he end his boycotting? Al-Imam al-Bukhari rahimahullah collected in his Sahih, to the authority of the great companion Abu Ayyub al-Ansari radiallahu anhu, that Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, لا يحل لرجل أن يهجر أخاه فوق 3 ليال يلتقيان فيعرض هذا ويعرض هذا وخيرهما الذي يبدأ بالسلام. وخيرهما الذي يبدأ بالسلام. It is not lawful for a man to boycott his Muslim brother for more than 3 nights. It is unlawful for them that when they meet, one of them turns his face away from the other, and the other turns his face from the former. And the better of them two, the better of the two, will be the one who greets the others first with the salam. The better of the two is the one that greets each other first with the salam. Al-Hafiz An-Nawawi, our author here, An-Nawawi rahimahullah, said in his explanation of Sahih Muslim, قال مالك والشافعي والجمهور وتزول الهجرة بمجرد سلامه عليه وهو ظاهر قوله عليه الصلاة والسلام وخيرهما الذي يبدأ بالسلام. Imam Malik, Imam Shafi'i, and the majority of the Islamic scholars say that the Hajar is seized by merely giving the salam. It ends by merely giving the salam. It is what is apparent from the saying of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and the best of them both is the one who gives the salam first. End of Al-Hafiz An-Nawawi's words. We will wait until the adhan ends, insha'Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala. Naam. Again, An-Nawawi rahimahullah ta'ala, he said that Imam Malik, Imam Shafi'i, and the majority of the Islamic scholars say that Al-Hajar is seized, is finished by merely giving the salam. It is what is apparent from the saying of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and the best of them both is the one who gives the salam first. End of An-Nawawi's words. Naam, we will stop here for this week in this part of the explanation of this hadith, and next week or in the next lesson, insha'Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala, we will talk about, is it always confined, Al-Hajar, boycotting, is it always confined to 3 days? Is there such thing as Al-Hajar that is more than 3 days? When will that be? What is the occasion? What is the reason behind that, and so on? This will all be in the next lesson, insha'Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala. Wallah, wa sallallahu ala nabiyyina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdika la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilaik. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.